Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. I hope you're all doing well. I know I did a live a little bit earlier on, and we spoke briefly on this player, Mykhailo Mudryk. Here's the hook for you, folks. It has moved quickly since the last time we did that live. We discussed him briefly, and I said there wasn't enough behind the mentions. Obviously, it had been mentioned by Adam Pope briefly on their podcast. But what can we say now? Well, Leeds are actively trying to sign Mykhailo Mudryk from Chelsea on loan. An initial season-long loan proposal has been rejected by the Blues, but negotiations are ongoing. And me personally, this is exactly the type of profile of attacking signing that Leeds should be looking at. We're short of a left winger. Okafor struggling to get through 60 minutes worth of football. And you've got a player there that was highly coveted across multiple teams in Europe. Leeds United had a look themselves, but it was well out of our price range in the end. But this one excites me. What I want to do is just tell you what's actually happening up to this point, what this player can give us, and if Leeds United can get this one over the line. Look, the story as so, right? This is where we're at, okay? He's not currently in Chelsea's plans, all right? We know why that is. He was confirmed to have taken some illegal substances. But now that ban is done and Chelsea are exploring a loan rather than selling him. Clearly, they still believe there's a player in there, or maybe they're saying, covering the backs, let him go out on loan, smash it as we expect him to do, and then we can ask, an even bigger fee. Leeds fans, I know, will find negatives in, well, why should we just make another player better? But that's where we're at as a football club. If you can get a full season out of Mudryk, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. Look, he's under contract at Chelsea till 2031. He got one of their mad 8-year deals, which clearly explains why Chelsea don't need to cash in now. Now, Leeds have made a proposal to Chelsea for a season-long loan. I've seen reports that some clubs want him with a view to buy, but Leeds are saying, nah, listen, we'll take him on loan. We'll give him some minutes. We'll get him up to speed. And I'm happy with that. Chelsea have said no initially to the first loan package. But this is the important distinction that we must make. Chelsea hasn't necessarily said, you're not going to Leeds, game over. Mudryk hasn't rejected Leeds United. In all honesty, Mudryk would prefer to stay in the Premier League. So what's happened is Chelsea's rejected Leeds' first proposed deal. And if negotiations are continuing, there's clearly something to negotiate. This isn't dead in the water like some are saying Delap is. So we have to have hope that we can get this done. And this is a position that Leeds United need covering. I think we can all agree that. Cover, maybe not so. First teamer, you could argue. I've said now on a number of occasions, the one player that I think we can improve on currently this season would be Okafor. I'm not as enamoured as most, but he's still a fantastic player, don't get me wrong. But it's a position and a player that we can improve on. So this is where we need to speak about what Mudryk can give us. He's a Ukrainian international. He's still only 25-year-old, primarily a left winger. He's right-footed. He's at Chelsea and contracted till 2031. Now, they famously beat Arsenal to his signature in January of 2023. There was a real transfer battle going on there. It was, I think, one of Todd Bowley's first, come on, we're gonna enter this race. It was worth an initial 62 million, potentially rising to 88.5 million with add-ons. And it's important to remind people here why Chelsea spent that money. Some will say, oh, he's a drug cheat. Some will say he's not a good player like they did with Delap because, he didn't exactly set the world alight when he did play for Chelsea. But Chelsea can be a bit of a graveyard for decent attacking young talent, for any talent really, sometimes in the forward areas. But Mudryk exploded at Shakhtar. That's why Chelsea spent that money. His 22-23 Champions League campaign produced 6 appearances, 3 goals and 2 assists. And his combination of explosive acceleration, his ball-carrying ability and one-on-one threat made him one of Europe's most coveted young players. Doesn't that just, Hannibal Lecter, wet the lips? He's a player that we ideally could do with at Leeds United. And that's the player that Leeds United will be gambling on rediscovering. And our hit rate has been good. We gambled on DCL. Now look. We gambled on Manor Solomon in the Championship. look, there's many gambles Leeds United have made, and they've been able to rediscover that form that brought them to the football club. Now, we do need to give some balance, of course. It didn't work at Chelsea because, as I've already said, Chelsea, paid 88 million, and he's been pretty gash, and he's caused issues, especially with this doping scandal. So, of course, people will inevitably say that. And there is truth in that he has nowhere near justified his valuation. Across his Chelsea career before his long absence, he did make 73 appearances in all comps and scored 10 goals. It's not a massive return. His best Premier League season coming in 23-24, he made 31 league appearances during that time and scored just 5 goals. But he did show more productivity in Europe. 3 goals in 6 Conference League European appearances. He's not, by any stretch of the imagination, a proven Premier League superstar, but are Leeds United able to buy a proven Premier League superstar from Chelsea? No, we're not. He isn't that. But there is an upside to this transfer, and that's what we have to look at. There's a massive upside to this transfer. If we get anywhere close to the player that originally got the move to Chelsea, then we are buzzing. Now, as mentioned, his absence. There is an elephant in the room that we need to discuss. Yeah? Because I know you in the comments, and already on my live earlier, people were. He's not played competitively since November 2024. And after an anti-doping case involving a low concentration of meldonium, I think. My pronunciation's wrong. He initially received a 4-year suspension and appealed that. It was resolved on July the 31st following changes to VADA procedures. The FA said that had the same sample been collected under the current rules, the concentration would not have been reported and no anti-doping violation would have resulted. Now, I don't know the ins and outs, and maybe the FA are covering the back, but what they're saying is, had this have been done later, then he wouldn't have been done for it. Okay? Now, he has accepted the violation as part of the settlement. And with that period of ineligibility that he's had to serve, but he's immediately now eligible again. That's the fairest way I can say it. It's quite a complicated case, but ultimately he was in breach. However, if we were to redo it now, he wouldn't be in breach. And he subsequently now returned to football and featured during Chelsea's pre-season. So, I get all that downside, but there is far too much upside for Leeds United to not take this because it makes sense. We don't necessarily need another £40 million gamble. You could argue in Delap. A lot of people were saying I wouldn't dare pay that for him. But what we could do is take one on loan that could provide to be a difference maker, elite level raw pace, direct ball carrying, genuine 1-versus-1 threat. We're not talking Dan James here. We're talking Mudryk. Natural left-sided attacker that can cut in on his right. He's a transition threat, and we know that Leeds United will look to play in transition a lot. So a loan definitely changes that whole calculation of spending 40 million. As I, mentioned them things there, this is a player that could get back to that, but we're not tied in. We're saying, right, okay, we'll take you on a loan. You know what I mean? We're not saying here, should we spend 40 to 60 million on this player? We're saying, let's take him out on loan. Would you take that? It is a risk. But if you get him anywhere close to the potential that he was supposed to achieve on loan, it's nice for me. It's a very interesting proposition for Leeds United and for Leeds United fans. Now, of course, there's issues about match sharpness, etc. And he has lost a huge chunk of football development. So we can't guarantee we're going to get anywhere close to that Shakhtar one. But what if we did? What if we did? This is the exciting thing with this. But we'll have to see what happens, because what will happen next, right? Well, what is it Chelsea have refused, or why have they refused Leeds' first proposal? Was it the loan fee, wage contribution, the structure, playing time assurances? Because Chelsea have Strasbourg, another club they can go to, and he'll be guaranteed probably all minutes. And we know that Farke won't do that. So it'd be interesting to see why it has been rejected. But for me, if Leeds get Mudryk on a straight season-long loan without taking any ridiculous financial risk, then all day I'm doing it. All day I am doing this. But ultimately, I want to know what you guys think, and girls. For me, I think Mudryk at Leeds could work well. It's an exciting prospect. It shows Leeds United are moving up the football pyramid, because there's no way we get anywhere close to this deal last summer. So I'm excited, and I want to know your thoughts. Does the risk or does the reward far outweigh the risk? I think it does, 100%. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Mudryk to Leeds, yes, please. Peace out. Leeds, Leeds, Leeds.